In order to start our giant cupcake, I am using this beautiful giant cupcake silicone mould, perfect for a chocolate base. If you want to purchase one of these, you will find a link to Amazon in the description below this video. I also have 500 grams of white chocolate, which I'm now going to melt down and show you how to turn it a different colour. I prefer to use white chocolate instead of candy melts for the simple reason that it's an awful lot more tasty. Now, to turn it your own colour, all you need are these beautiful edible tints by Sugar Flare. Here I am using the petal blue, but it will come out more of a greeny colour. You can get loads of different colours. You don't need to add too much, and because it's a powder, it does not affect how your chocolate will set. So you can now colour all of your white chocolate any colour you want. It can be delicious, it can be tasty, and you don't need to use the Wilton candy melts. If you prefer to use them, that's fine, but my personal preference is the real thing, the white chocolate. Start by simply stirring this in to your white chocolate and make sure you get rid of all the tiny bits. Now you simply want to pour the majority of this chocolate directly into your mould, and I will speed this section up and show you what I do, because all we need to do is coat all of the sides with the chocolate. Take your time doing this, be thorough, keep on going around the mould until that chocolate starts to set, and then simply place this in the fridge for a good 1 hour to 1 hour and 30 minutes. So I've just taken this out of the fridge, and now I'm going to gently, and I mean gently, pull away the sides just to loosen it at first. To go all the way around the edge of your giant cupcake, pull away the silicone mould gently, and then once you've released all of the sides, just like I have there, we can start by pulling away the whole of the mould. Tip it upside down and simply pull away. This is why these silicone moulds are great, because you can bake with them, but also do this with the chocolate. And as you can see, it's coming away very, very easily. You do have to be patient. You do need to leave this in the fridge. It's very important. But that is what you will end up with, a perfect chocolate base. Place this directly back into your cupcake mold. And the reason I am doing this is because now we need to add the cake. And I don't want to get any buttercream or any cake crumbs on that beautiful chocolate base. I have used the same silicone mould in order to bake this large base of the cupcake. We are now just going to simply trim off the edges. To fill that particular mould, just the base, you want on average about 200 grams of cake batter. You want to take off all the edges. This is so that we can actually fit the cake in there. We are then going to cut it into layers, and I'm going to show you how to add this to that chocolate base. So once you've cut off the sides, we need to do this in order to fit it into the mould due to the chocolate taking up some extra room. You then simply cut your cake into layers like I'm doing here. It doesn't have to be neat. Remember, this is actually going inside that chocolate. We're then going to be adding some buttercream to the top of this and also to the sides where the chocolate actually is, just so everything sticks together beautifully, and we're going to layer it up. You can add as many layers as you want. This is actually a coffee cake, which is why it's a slightly different colour. But if you're doing the popular Victoria sponge, you can add jam. That chocolate, as long as you've done it properly and you've added enough of the chocolate, will hold everything in just like a fondant covered cake does. So simply layer this up. I will speed this part up for you, and then it wants to go directly back into your fridge. Now we have made the base, we need to make the support structure for the mermaid tail. So here I am using cake frame. Now from left to right, I have a 4-inch round platform, a long foundation rod, a small rod, and the one on the right is called an X and Y cross joint. Start by placing the foundation rod onto the 4-inch round platform and using the lock nut secure this into place. You can buy all of Cake Frame's parts separately, either on different websites that sell cake decorating equipment or the official Cake Frame site. On top of the long foundation, add the small rod, and finally the X and Y cross joint. We are going to be building cake up to the X and Y cross joint. I've taken that off so that we can add the cake, and then we will be using the X and Y cross joint to support the actual fin on the mermaid's tail. All of the parts used in this tutorial are in the description below this video. Here I have a 4-inch round coffee cake, and I'm going to place it directly over the cake frame and push it through so it peeks through the top. I am then simply going to carve away some of the sides, and any excess cake that is left over I'm just going to place on a plate for now, because we are going to be using that to create some more of the detail. Make sure you remove any cake that gets stuck in the actual cake frame rod, because remember we need to get on here our X and Y cross joint later on. So with the leftover cake, all I'm doing is turning it into a cake pop mix by adding some buttercream to the crumbs. We will then be moulding this around the rest of the cake frame. Now simply crumb coat all of the mermaid tail and place directly into the fridge. In order to support the rest of the mermaid's tail, I am using florist wire, florist tape and the X and Y cross joint. Start by covering your wires with tape, and you want 3 in total. Remember, these wires are allowed to be used in sugarwork, however they must not enter a cake. In order to prevent these from actually going in the cake, this is why Cake Frame is such an amazing, innovative piece of equipment. It doesn't just support your cakes, but when you want to do things like this, it actually keeps everything food safe. As you can see, I'm just feeding the wires in to the X and Y cross joint. These joints are designed so they actually come apart in half, and they will hold themselves together when they're added to another part of the cake frame. So once you've got your rough shape, using some more florist tape, simply tape the bottom. I will then be placing it back in there and securing it in place with the other half of the X and Y cross joint. I will speed this section up just so that you can see exactly what I am doing. Now that it's all in place, all I am doing is bending the wires until I'm happy with them, and then I'm just going to cut off any excess with some scissors. To help prevent those wires from moving, I've just added a small amount of fondant in each part of the X and Y cross joint, but that is how easy it is to create. Here I have rolled out 2 relatively thin pieces of blue modelling paste, and all I'm doing is using some edible glue to stick on this little support network that I've just made for the mermaid's fin. So by adding that and pushing it into the fondant first, I will then take a very sharp knife and cut around the outside to try and get an accurate shape before we add the other side on. Don't worry too much about where the actual cake frame part is because it is quite bulky. We will be covering that up later when we add the scales. Now that I have cut out my shape, and you noticed I did that freehand, so do take your time to avoid mistakes. I'm adding more edible glue, and this is for the second piece of modelling paste. Now simply cut around the edges. Because you've cut out your first piece already, you know where to cut this one. Before we add it to the cake, we need to add a few more details. Now, whilst this modelling paste is still soft, using a sugar craft tool, I want to add a few lines to this just to give it more of an effect. I'm also going to cut away a little bit more of that fin. I don't want it completely smooth because it's a mermaid tail, so I want to give it a little bit more definition. And whilst the modelling paste is still soft, you will find that you can actually bend that wire that is in the centre. So it gives it more of a gravity defying effect, and it will eventually set rock hard. So you do need to bend it whilst it is still soft. I will speed this part up for you so that you can see what I actually do to it. Taking the base of the mermaid tail, we're now going to add this directly to our support system. Once we have added it, as you can see, I've already started to bend one of the fins, but we can bend them just a little bit more because this modelling paste has not set yet. All of that wire just went directly into the other foundation piece, so it's completely food grade, and now you can bend those fins to the angle that you want them and it will all set by itself. We just need to add those beautiful scales. You can see me bending them just there, so just get them how you want them to look on your beautiful giant cupcake. Now that all our parts are ready, we just need to assemble them. Now, I've already embossed this decorated cake jar using the Sweet Stamp Sweet Sticks by Amy Cakes. They're absolutely amazing, and I have a separate tutorial on how to use Sweet Stamp that you can find in the description below this video. Now, the first thing we need to do is add this cupcake directly to the cake jar. You'll find it's nowhere near as nerve-wracking taking the silicone mould away the second time. But as you can see, it stopped us getting or any buttercream or any marks on there at all. Simply place this onto your drum and then we will add the support system needed for the mermaid tail. Start by marking a 4-inch round circle in the buttercream, the same size as the actual mermaid tail. The weight would push down on this cake, so we need to add a few cake dowels, and we also need to core out part of the centre in order to fit in the cake frame. You can use any sort of dowel of any kind. I'm going to be using the poly dowel, but using my cupcake core firstly, I'm just going to take a small area of cake directly out of the centre because the 4-inch round platform has a lock nut under it and it needs some room to be level on the cake. Now you simply want to use your poly dowels or your wooden dowels. Here I place 4 of these directly through the cupcake and to the base and just cut them with a Stanley knife or whatever you use to cut your cake dowels with. To act like a natural glue, simply add some of your leftover buttercream both to the little hole where we've cut out the cake and on top of each of the 4 cake dowels. Now simply place your mermaid tail directly onto the support system just like so. This is what it will look like so far. Now using the new PME geometric cutters, we are going to create some beautiful scales before adding a few finishing touches. Using one of the new PME geometric multi-cutters, here you can see I've cut out 4 different colours. I've used the smaller one in the set, and I will leave a link to that in the description below this video. We are now simply going to add these scales one by one. Now, just a little note on this new PME product. They're absolutely fantastic. It's not taken me long to cut out all of these at all, because you cut out quite a lot all at the same time. In each set there are 3 different sizes. I have used the smallest size, and as mentioned, there is a link to Amazon in the description below this video if you want to purchase this particular one used. Use any colours that you want to for your mermaid. Be creative. Don't use the same colour all at the same time. Keep on changing the colours and just build it up. I will now show you what it looks like when you've spent the time covering this. It's really worth it, trust me. This is a little bit glossy because I've just steamed it to get rid of any excess icing sugar, but how beautiful does that look? You'll notice I've come up just above where the support is with it as well, just to make it look more smoother and more beautiful. All we need to do now with the leftover buttercream is pipe some around the sides and add some of those beautiful sprinkles. Here I am using the Wilton 2D piping nozzle. I've gone around the outside of my piping bag with a pink buttercream, and filled the centre with a beautiful teal colour. Now, if you do it like this, you can get a beautiful two-toned effect, and you don't need any fancy special piping bags. Simply go around the edges. If you want to purchase one of these nozzles, again, I have a link to Amazon in the description below this video, and then simply add sprinkles. And there we have it, our finished cake. All I've done is added sprinkles to the piped buttercream. On the base where I'd embossed those letters, I've also just added sprinkles. It's another great way to use the Sweet Stamp by Amy cakes. You don't always have to paint where you have embossed. But how beautiful does that look? Really simple. However, it's very, very, very popular at the moment. I'm seeing so many of these mermaid cupcakes. I just thought, what if we turned one into a giant cupcake? So you can have this at the party, and if you need to feed more people, you could have mermaid cupcakes alongside it. Happy baking, everyone. I hope I've helped you again today, and I will be back next week at 7 p.m. on Sunday with a new tutorial. Happy baking, guys. And remember, if you like what you see, please do support the channel for free.